Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Ayo, God. You give me breath. You keep me fresh. So check my mic. Check my life. Check my sight. You get me right. Make me new. That's what you do.
Hi, everybody. It's your girl, and welcome back to the To Be Called podcast. This is episode 15, and this week we are looking at fear and people. And contrary to what you think, there are a lot of people out there afraid of others, and they're stuck in situations because of that. Before we move on, as I always encourage you to reach out to your local church, be it virtually or be it physically in person, join a support group, call a prayer line. You can't go wrong by calling a prayer line. If all else fails, call a prayer line. Make sure that you also are seeking God first in all things that you do, asking Him for clarity and revelation, and making sure that you are obedient to what He's calling you to do. And if you are dealing with fear, you have joined the right podcast, because our first season has been based on the different spirits and the different sides of fear and what goes along with it. And I'm speaking from experiences myself and experiences of others. So let's go. Let's get started. Fear and people. Fear of people online is defined as an inordinate desire to please people or receive their approval. Let me repeat that again. When you have a fear of people, it is defined as an inordinate desire to please people or receive their approval. So you're wanting to please them and receive their approval because you don't want to deal with certain things. And in actual reality, that is not healthy. It can be to an extent that you want to please your parents, you want to please your loved ones, you want to do right by them. But what are you doing right by? What are they expecting you to do that you're not being true to yourself or being true to what God has called you to? Here are some reasons why people fear people. Rejection is one of them. Rejection is not easy. If you are an artist, you are going to get rejected because someone is not going to like your painting, your music, your writing, your performance. And that is okay. It's not easy dealing with it because a bunch of no's sometimes can be very, very tiring. And you want to break ground to where you hear that yes. And even after the first yes, you want another yes, right? Or rejection in the sense of, so now you're no longer in that friend group, or you're not in the clique. You're ostracized, you're marginalized, and you have to deal with the feelings of that. So that's one reason why you would want to be pleasing to someone so that you can fit in. Keep changing your artwork to make someone else feel good. Keep changing who you are to make someone else feel good, but you're not being true to who you are. Or losing a relationship. So we're going to segue from that, rejection. I have come across a lot of people in relationships who stayed in relationships because they were afraid to hurt that person's feelings. They were afraid to lose, but in terms of relationship, they would stay and do things, male or female, and do things for the sake of the kids or do things for the sake of the boyfriend or the sake of the girlfriend, and they ended up losing. So nobody really honestly wants to lose a relationship, right? So you would do things to be pleasing. You don't want to be ridiculed. You don't want to be made fun of. Now, you might say that that's not something that bothers you, but for a middle schooler, they're not going to want to be ridiculed. That's the age where you're like, oh, he's looking at me, or teacher, he's bothering me, or this person said this to me, and this person doesn't like me. Adults deal with that middle school type of thing in a different way, but nobody wants to be ridiculed. So we would do things to stay in the favor and the light and the pleasing of the eyes of the person we're trying to please. Being ostracized does not feel good, meaning you're marginalized. You're put to the other side. You're put on the outside because you don't fit in, or it's like singling you out, and that's not a good feeling. Making you feel like who you are is not worthy to be considered in a group or to be considered, mainstream, because what you're doing is so opposite. It is so different, so you're ostracized. If you're the trendsetter, the pioneer, people will mock you, they will copy, they will bite your style, as they would say years ago. You know, and then put you into ostracization. I made up a word. They will ostracize you because of that while taking from you. Losing power. If you're in a CEO position, a director position, a position of a father in a household is a powerful position. A boyfriend who's dealing with a girl who probably has low self-esteem, he feeds off of her low self-esteem, and that's power for him. So I keep my power by doing the things that I do to you. I keep my power by doing the things that I do to you on and off the job, after school, at the community centers, at the park playgrounds, in the streets. You use your power and you don't want to lose it because the power has benefited you in some type of way, even if it has been malicious. Afraid of backlash and punishment. We don't want to do things wrong to make our parents upset because we don't want to have our parents angry with us. And for some people, that's withholding a trust fund. That's withholding a car. That's withholding material things. That's withholding you getting a new cell phone. So nobody wants the punishment of that. If you're not the boss's favorite, you can be punished by getting more work to do, or doing more work and getting less credit for it. That's a form of punishment right there, a form of backlash. You go and you inform them that something is going on, and in turn, they end up isolating you or ostracizing you, making you feel rejected. And nobody wants to feel that way. It takes a strong person to be able to deal with rejection. Now, how does fear use that against you? Fear uses people. So we're talking about how the spirit of fear, remember, God did not give us that fear. So it's legitimate to have that fear, but God didn't give it to you to keep it and always walk around in fear. So that's why he's called me to look at the different aspects of fear that people don't think about. And I've experienced not all of them, but some of them, right? So fear, the spirit of fear will use another person to frighten you. And what do I mean by that? It'll bring rejection. If I am the spirit of fear and I reject you, now I'm causing you to feel like you'll never receive something. And then from there, you begin to believe that and move about frightened. If I reject you, then you go and say, well, maybe I'll never get this from her. Maybe she'll never do this for me, and I need her to do this for me. So now you're walking around on pins and needles, on eggshells. I'm using colloquialisms here. You're walking around fidgety, nervous, trying to figure out, how do I make her happy? How do I do this so that she won't stop helping me? Right? It'll frighten you. So now you're frightened about it. Or it'll punish you. You don't do what the person wants you to do in return, you receive some type of punishment. Whether it's from your household, again, boyfriend, girlfriend relationship, husband, wife, aunt, uncle, cousins, best friend, associates, acquaintances, comrades, supervisor, any title that's out there that exists in the world. They can punish you because you spoke up. They can punish you because you didn't do what they wanted you to do and you did it what you wanted to do, or you did it your way. They can punish you through using verbal words against you. They can punish you. You have people that are very vindictive, that practice witchcraft, that want to punish you behind the scenes. They want to be sneaky with it because nobody else sees what goes on in the naked eye because they hide themselves. So they do it behind the scenes. That's a form of spiritual abuse. That's a form of punishment when a person seeks to do witchcraft against someone instead of just going to that person and saying, hey, this or hey, that, and dealing with conflict. So obviously that person does not know how to deal with conflict accordingly. So that's a form of somebody punishing you. You have things going on in your life, punishing you because you left them, punishing you because you're greater than, punishing you because you might not be greater than, but what you have is great. So think about those things, and I always use the spiritual to show you all because that does exist. I've experienced some of those things myself. Isolate you by singling you out to make you look like you're bad, right? Singling you out. You have it in the classrooms where there are teachers who would single out people just to single them out. You have people who come to work and they have bad days at home. They have bad days, period, and they will project that negative energy in the atmosphere, right? And single you out with it if you say you don't want to be involved in that. You let somebody know that you don't want to get entangled in gossiping, and then they'll start rolling their eyes. They'll start giving you attitude. They'll start whispering. They'll start doing things to single you out and make it look like something is wrong with you in a bad way. And I'm not talking about if you bring awareness to somebody's behavior. I'm talking about singling you out, never letting you get a chance to be the line leader in school, never letting you get a chance to take a note to the office or run an errand. You're always stuck doing the same thing, or whether you're on the job, you don't get a chance to grow. You stay in the same position while they bring somebody new in and right past you, and that person passes what you've been doing, and you have to end up teaching them. So singling out. Control. Fear would use a person to want to control you. They'll back you into a corner and cripple your productivity, create negative environments. Control. If landlords do this, if you are someone that is having a problem with a tenant, a neighbor, you go to a landlord. Most of the times the landlords don't want to do anything with it because they hide behind whatever power they have. And they do have power. They have the power to say to that tenant, look, stop this. But they favor the money. So what they'll do is turn around and use their control to just back you in a corner and say, okay, you can leave. Or you've had the relationship where the person they knowingly know that they're doing you wrong, but they will still turn around and tell you that you can leave to make you feel like, okay, well, do I need to leave? Should I stay? I better just stay and deal with it. So this is how fear would use control over you. Of creating negative environments. You come into work and you're upset. You're mad with your husband, you're mad with your partner, and instead of you going to counseling to deal with that, or instead of you going to go talk to your partner about those things, you come to work and you create an environment that's hostile. You bring it into the environment where somebody is not negative, and now they're forced to deal with that. And that can cripple your productivity. You will start feeling like if you're on the job and you're working in a position and you don't get to move up and you're doing the same thing every day, and you have bills to pay and you want to grow and you want to learn and you really like the job, your productivity might change. I've been on jobs that I didn't like, but I've seen people sabotage on the jobs because they didn't like a position, whether it was in retail or not. Oh, I'm not doing this paperwork because I'm off the clock. Or they'll push a go back cart back in the hour because they felt like they weren't getting paid while you're doing the work. So control can cause all of those things, right? Distraction, which stops you from doing God's will and focusing on Him. So fear would use people to distract you, bringing drama to your life. Like the only drama that you should be having is watching the drama that you see, whether it's written by Shonda Rhimes or watching your favorite Netflix or whatever series that you watch. That's the only drama that you should have going on in your life that can get your attention. Like negative drama in your life, you should deal with the conflict, address it. Don't let it linger. But you have people who will bring that. You got a project that you're working on. So now you have someone coming into your household bringing distraction and things that you shouldn't even be involved in, battles that you shouldn't have nothing to do, comes into your way to distract you. When it distracts you, you stop doing what you're supposed to be doing. Fear shows up through people as harassment. Harassment meaning, and we're talking about forgiveness with this too, because a lot of time people bring in forgiveness. You got to forgive your enemies. Yes, you have to forgive your enemies, but your enemies sometimes like to use that against you too. They want you to forgive them. When somebody is harassing you, they're doing it more than one time. It's not a one-time thing where you just forgive and is let bygones be bygones. You have a person harassing you, which is trying to get at you, trying to provoke you. Some people really get their rocks off by controlling you or watching to see if you're going to do a good job or not. And that clearly tells you that something is wrong with that person, right? They try to wear you out, settle for less than, retreat, force you to give up. If a person keeps trying to harass you, at some point you're going to get tired and you're going to say something or you're going to do something. And what society and what nobody on the jobs, off the jobs ever sees is when that person is doing what they're doing, or those people are doing what they're doing. They see the person that reacts, and they don't understand why that person reacted, even if that person was in the wrong. So if you're faith-based, and again, this is a faith-based podcast, but I'm also aware that I'm not going to be speaking to people who are faith-based. They may be of different denominations, but I'm sure that some of these things that I'm talking about can relate to them, right? But if you are dealing with any of these things, and this is important because our kids deal with these things in school. Harassment comes with bullying, distraction, control. All of that shows up in the classroom at school. It shows up in I've been in churches where I've seen it and didn't say nothing. That's why if you go back to my first episode where I said the spirit of fear, I had played the background. I was just quiet, pretend like I didn't see anything, but still God was nudging me to speak. And that's where my disobedience was, right? And this is good that we're talking about this topic today as we move forward to people in the Bible who use fear against God's people. So before we move to that section, again, fear can use people. That spirit comes through the person, and that person does things to frighten you. They use the rejection tactic. They punish you. They isolate you. They control you, which backs you into a corner. They bring distraction to stop you from focusing on what matters the most. You should be worrying about paying mortgage, not going to the strip club, wasting all your money. You should be worrying about taking care of your health. And let someone call you hypochondriac if they want to, because they're not in your body. You should be responsible of taking care of your health instead of drinking and smoking and putting things into your body that can interfere with you being a mother or a father in the communities you live in. Harassment, keep nagging you, keep aggravating you for you to react. I am encouraging you, whoever you are listening, if you are going through any of these things, please seek God first and let Him speak to you. Let Him show you how to handle the situation. Don't just go in and handle the situation off of your feelings, because your feelings can change tomorrow. You don't want to do something that you'll end up regretting and you can't take back, right? And I'm talking about something that's detrimental. You don't want to end up in prison somewhere. You don't want to end up in jail and can't get it off your record after that mistake or after that response to that person when they pissed you off. I would say go to God, walk away from that person. And if you feel like you're going to God and you walked away from that person, you're going to God and it's not working, continue to stay in prayer and fasting. Ask God to change you. Ask God to show you who that person is and why are they acting like that. You can also go to church and talk to other people and ask them for guidance and how to deal with it. You can also go to that person. Biblically, you are supposed to go to that person and address it. And if that doesn't work, you bring a mediator. So you need to make sure that you're practicing those things there, right? Now, there were people in the Bible who used fear. You can go through the Bible yourself, which I encourage you to do, whether you use KJV, whatever version you use, please do so, whether you use it online or go to the Christian bookstore or Books A Million, Barnes & Nobles, whatever store is nearby you, but Books A Million and a Christian bookstore might have even more specific Bibles, and some select Walmarts carry Bibles that you can draw in and doodle in if that's more fun for you to do. So get your version so that you can get this work done. So Jezebel in the Bible threatened Elijah. This is 1 Kings 19. Elijah had just finished carrying out what God wanted him to do. Defeated the whole army, defeated the people, did what he's supposed to do. And then after that, again, Ahab goes and tells Jezebel, what happened. And when he tells her, meaning Jezebel, what happened and what Elijah did, so now she sends a messenger to deliver the threat. So she was threatened. It wasn't Elijah who was threatened, because Elijah didn't really want to do it, but he did it. A lot of times we look at the disciples and we say, oh, they were this. But if you read the stories in detail, they didn't always want to carry out that stuff, because it's not easy carrying out the will of God, right? So she was the one that was threatened. Hear that again. She felt threatened by it. So she then sent a messenger to go threaten him, saying that she would take his life. Think about that. That would be a reason. And he ran because of that. He ran and hid. So imagine how many people did not speak up, did not say anything when they saw that person destroy the community, just take somebody else's life, and they just let it stay. One of their boys did it, and they was afraid to take the punishment for it. They didn't want to get in trouble. The fear of rejection, fear of people, and they know some innocent boy shouldn't have got murdered, right? Unalived, as you all would say. Or you seen the person on the job doing wrong and you've never said a word about it. Think about that. That's reason, because you have a Jezebel that's threatening you. Or a Pharaoh in Exodus 1, 9 through 10. Pharaoh was considered a god. A lot of people call themselves gods today and ancestors, all this god and ancestor stuff, right? They call themselves a god, right? Pharaoh was considered a god. And his fear caused him to harass and oppress the Israelites. Isn't this interesting? If he is a God, that means that everything should work in his favor if he is a God. But he was a God, hear me now, he was a God that had fear about other people. Follow me now, track with me. Pharaoh was considered a God, but he had fear. And his fear that he had, it caused him to harass and oppress the Israelites. He was afraid of their size. But he's a God. Why would you be afraid if you're a God? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you be afraid if you are God? That doesn't make any sense at all. But think about that. He says in Exodus 1, 9, 10, he said to his people, "Look, the Israelite people are more numerous and powerful than we are. Come, let's deal shrewdly with them. Otherwise, they will multiply further. And if war breaks out, they may join our enemies, fight against us, and escape from the land." Imagine that. So he uses his fear against them because they outnumbered them. They outnumbered the Egyptians, right? Think about that. Think about a person, you're on the job wondering why somebody's hating on you. You're minding your business. You working on your craft, working on your gift. You smile. Despite all the things that you're going through, you show up and you smile. You show up and you love. But you got a whole team of people discussing you. You got a whole team of people that's coming against you. Why? Because they're like Pharaoh. You're one in the size. 1 to their 10. Do the ratio, do the math. 1 to their 20, 1 to their 5. You're one person minding your business to the 5. And they feel like Pharaoh did. Moving right along, Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 3. Daniel 3. And you can do the background check on it for yourself for further studying. Nebuchadnezzar was prideful. Prideful people will boast about everything. They will boast about their material things, their accoutrements, everything. And they'll hold their head and chest up like they're a bird, like they're an eagle, right? He created a gold statue. Think about how prideful this is. He created a gold statue of himself and wanted everyone to bow down to it. Imagine in your neighborhood somebody is so prideful that they build or they have someone to build and create a statue that they want everybody on this certain block to bow down to them. Right? Think about that. There's somebody on the job that wants you to bow down to them. They want your attention. And when I say bow down, I don't just mean get on your knees. They want your attention. And when you don't give your attention, you get rejected. You get all these other little things that we talked about, reasons why people fear people. You get ridiculed, you get ostracized, you lose your power because they take things away from you. So think about that. Nebuchadnezzar is full of himself to the point where he builds a gold statue. Now, there's a certain amount of self-esteem and confidence that you should have and not let nobody make you feel like an imposter. But Nebuchadnezzar didn't have to do that, but he chose to do that. He wanted everybody to bow down to that statue, but they didn't. So when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego particularly did not follow this, he put them in a furnace and turned the heat up higher. That's what the enemy did to those boys. Daniel 3. He was full of himself, and he wanted everybody to get on the bandwagon and bow down to his statue. Anybody wanting you to bow down to them or to a statue, you need to check yourself and check with God to see why you're bowing down to it. I would never ask you to bow down to anything. I wouldn't even tell you to bow down to God. I would tell you go before him in prayer. Go before him in thanksgiving and praise and worship. And I ask God to never let me be like that. And mine, I'm human. There are times when I was prideful because I'm his child. And it may have came off as that, where I feel pride about God being my Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be his name. And I have to make sure I check that as you listen to the intro of the podcast. It says, check my life, check my light, check my eyes. I ask God to check on me and make sure I'm doing what's right. You also have people in the Bible who were afraid. So we have people who use fear and people who were afraid. Elijah, remember, Elijah and Jezebel in 1 Kings, Elijah is afraid of Jezebel's threat. He was already tired. Imagine you just finished playing the Super Bowl. You had a victory. When you go from the Super Bowl, you're going to go for vacation. You're going to go party a little bit. You're not going to want to go and be met with more warfare and more, negative things. You're going to want to, that's a time of celebration. But he was met with that threat. He just carried out what God wanted him to do. Now he's being met with a threat. How many people turn away from doing God's will because they're like, okay, I did all this, God, and so now this person coming to threaten me, okay, we're not doing this no more, God. How many people in their real lives, whether you believe in God or not, have turned away from doing something after there was backlash or retaliation? Or you have Gideon. Gideon had a fear of carrying out God's order because of his previous struggle. Now think about Gideon. Think about what God wanted Gideon to do. God wanted Gideon to destroy his father's altar. Think about destroying your father's altar. Now, even if we take God out of this situation, think about your father. Even if he was never in your life, or if he is present or wasn't present or whatever. Think about you are being instructed as the daughter, as the son, to go back and destroy that altar that your father set up. Is that going to be an easy feat? I don't think so. Because you're going to feel some type of way like, that's my dad. I can't go and do that. Why would I go and do that? I'm going to destroy that, but that's how we grew up in our household. Why would I do that? That's like saying Trump's kids. If his kids felt like God told him to destroy his altar, imagine what that would be like. Had to use somebody that you know about, whether you like him or not, right? Or Biden's kids saying they want to destroy the altar that he set up. Or going back in your own household, whether you have an African parent, a Russian parent, whether you have an African American mom or dad, you know that's not going to sit right with them. Try telling your mom or dad that they're doing something wrong. They take offense to that. They don't easily receive that. So who would want to do that? God is asking you to do it? Gregory, Jeffrey, Jamal, Malik, I want you to go and tear down that statue, that altar that your dad set up. And I want you to set up a new one. How easy is that going to be? You might have people coming against you, the rest of your family, your mom coming against you. They might throw you out the house. A lot of families want to throw you out the house when they don't agree with you. And they don't care how old you are. Think about that. And Gideon didn't feel like he was on the threshing floor dealing with wheat. The threshing floor was a place where it was a lot of work. He felt like if he was a man of valor, what's all of this stuff here? If you're so special and you're so this, why don't you have anything that matches the special? that matches you being special, that matches you being great? Why doesn't it match? Because your mind starts to wonder that because you're human. And Gideon is proof that he felt that. He was afraid. He didn't want to go and do that. How are you going to look in front of your family? Okay, Dad, I'm tearing down the altar that you put together. And what if he was a Freemason? What if he was a sheriff? What if he was part of an Elks Club? What if he was part of the Playboy Club? What if he's part of something that was not good? And you go, I got to go tear this down, Dad. You're going to be afraid to go do that because of the backlash. Okay, you also have Moses. Moses was afraid. And Moses, you can look him up in Exodus 4:10, Exodus 4:1. He was afraid because he had a speech impediment. In classrooms, a lot of times students are afraid to get up and speak because they feel like their voice is going to crack, or they feel shy. They don't want anybody to watch them. Moses felt the same thing. God, why are you calling me to do this? Because look at how I speak. So he had his own doubt about himself, so insecurities, and he took his insecurities to God. God didn't see the insecurity. God saw, I want you to speak. Moses saw, wait a minute, I'm stuttering. I got this. I can't speak. And on top of that, Moses also felt like, how am I going to tell the Israelites that God told me to do this? Come on. You're going to go on social media and say, God told me to do this. And then people are going to come back in your comments for you. They're going to come for you in your comments and say, God didn't tell you to do that. But you know that God told you to do it. He was afraid, like, what are the Israelites going to do? Are they going to believe him? You know, all that stuff you think about before carrying out something, that's fear right there. You're fearing something that you haven't even done yet. So again, I like to tie in to the human side of the people in the Bible and bring it full course to you all so that you can see that they existed back then too. It wasn't easy for them either. Those of you that are faith-based followers, and even if you're not faith-based, you know what I'm talking about. You know when your teacher called on you in college or called on you in class to read, you didn't want to read because you know some certain boy in the classroom was going to tease you, or one of your boys was going to laugh at you, and you weren't honest enough to say that that hurts you. You weren't honest enough to deal with them, that you kind of hid it. So you were afraid to get up and speak like Moses was. And he was afraid of telling them what God told him. If God tells you something and you're the only one in the family that goes back and tell the family, God showed me in a dream that we shouldn't do this as a family. You're going to have people in that family that's hierarchy. The matriarch, if it's a black family, you got the mama. What the mama says goes, point blank. Drop the mic on that. That's going to be a hard one to get across, especially if they're set in their tradition and they're set in their culture and in their cultural mannerisms. So think about all of that. Who's going to want to contest that? Not a lot of people are brave enough and have the courage enough to stand up for what's right. They would rather take an L and let the other person, they would rather let the other person take the L while they play like they didn't do nothing, like they pull themselves out of the situation. They'll let their friend take the fall. They'll let somebody else be the fall guy or the fall girl. And then you have Jeremiah. Jeremiah was instructed to go tell the people what God said. Another one. He had to go and tell them all the things that they were doing wrong, bringing judgment. That's hard. If you don't stop doing this, this is going to happen to you. Think about telling somebody that and you're young. You don't have a lot of young people online. I've come across a few people, and some in particular, who's speaking out for God. But I've seen some, but it's not enough. And nobody wants to feel like, oh, I'm Christian, or I'm this, because then you can't go to the club, or you can't go to the lounge, you can't go to the hangout spot, you can't go to the spot with your boys, with your girls, sis, bruh, all that other stuff. Jeremiah being on the younger side of things, right? He had to go deliver judgment. Judgment is like the person who has to call you and say, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're fired. I'm sorry to tell you, but we're closing on your house. We're foreclosing your house. I'm sorry to tell you, we're repossessing your car. The person that has to say that, that's a lot of work to do that. Or I'm sorry to tell you, I can't be in a relationship with you anymore. And that's one thing that a lot of people are familiar with. You've had to tell that girl or that guy that you didn't like. You had to break their heart. And some people don't have the strength to do that. They'll just ghost the person instead of saying that because they're afraid of backlash. They're afraid of people. And as we move on, what does God say about fearing people? In Proverbs 29:25, it says, the fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. The fear of man bringeth the snare. So when you're fearing a man, you're bringing a snare. That's not a good thing for you. Like a trap. You're bringing something to entrap you. But if you put your trust in the Lord, you'll be safe. If you're going around fearing people for all of these reasons, and they may be valid, and you're not putting your trust in God, now you're creating a trap for yourself. You're creating problems for yourself because now that's going to cripple you. It's going to stunt your growth socially, physically, mentally. When you fear man, it is a trap because you will continually people please over God's will for your life. You trust man more than you trust God. Imagine all of you that are listening. Think about your friends and other people that you've listened to and you've heard. They are going through things right now as we speak in domestic violence relationships. They're on jobs where things are being done to them. They're living in places where landlords and tenants are doing things to them and nobody's willing to speak up. And they suffer. You all know these kind of people. When you fear man, it's a trap. Because you're not going to solve what you're supposed to solve. You're not going to be what you're supposed to be. You're not going to go where you're supposed to go because you're walking in fear of what the other person is going to think, what the other person is going to feel. Sometimes I've had to learn the hard way. You are going to just have to let people think what they think and feel what they feel. You cannot control what that person does. The only way people try to control people is through witchcraft because even God does not control. People who use witchcraft as a way to control, they have a lot of issues that they're dealing with. I don't want to control anybody but the things that God has called me to do. And even the things like this podcast, I still have to consult God to do this. I don't do this on my own. Every episode, there's thought put in behind it. It's not just me just speaking freestyle. There's thought and energy put behind this. So even then, my control is relinquished to God. But I do have my responsibility of carrying out what he's called me to do. So those of you that are afraid out there, think about this. When you fear man, it is a trap because you will continually people please over God's will for your life. You trust man more than you trust God. Who of you out there is trusting man more than you are trusting God? Who of you out there is putting other people's needs over what God has called you to do in your life? And you need to go before the Lord, be in his presence, spend time with him. Remember we said build a relationship and ask him, what's your will for my life? Who is in my life that you don't need to be in my life? Who do you need to be in your life? And check yourself because sometimes we do people please. I've been guilty of that. It wasn't on purpose. Because rejection is not easy. Again, if you're creative to do a podcast, you're creative. You're creative, you're going to get people to say all kind of stuff. But they're never going to speak the truth. And if you know that, you don't have to answer back or clap back to that. So if you would trust in God, trusting in God will give you the relationship that you need and the confidence and everything to know that he is not going to lead you astray. Man will. Man will have you people please and then get up and leave and go to the person who never people please. So don't let man play with you, right? Seek God's will. What is God calling you to do? You got to trust in God. And it's not easy trusting. We talked about Peter walking on the water. Peter done been with Jesus that long enough, and he get to the storm happening. It's not like God never showed him stuff prior to the storm happening. They just finished feeding the multitude. He saw how God was working. He saw how God was moving. God wasn't playing. He took something, he wasn't doing magic. It was all spiritual. He wasn't doing witchcraft. He wasn't consulting the dead. He wasn't consulting dead things. He wasn't using word curses to speak over those people's lives when he was feeding them. He multiplied blessings for those people. So don't let witch people and witchcraft people and people who do witchcraft things fool you. They have to consult negative things. Jesus did not have to do that to feed the multitude of people. And Peter being there, Peter had seen all of that and stuff prior to that. And still, when it came to the storm, what did he do? He stopped trusting for a second and he got scared. And it caused him to drown. It is my hope that you don't let someone's negative behavior, projections, force you to people please. Don't drown in people pleasing to where you don't carry out what God has called you to do. As we wrap up, remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. This is your girl signing off.
It's been so much fun. It's your girl signing off on the ones and twos, but not without him. You're going to have to choose. So seek his kingdom first, and all things shall be added unto you. I ain't nothing without you, Abba. Mic check, mic check.